Hey everybody, welcome back to another War of the Visions video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the next banner that should be coming up right before FFT2, and I know that this is going to be a hard banner to spend for a lot of people, but I think it's still worth looking at the units and learning all about them, because you might find that these units fit a niche in your team that you need to fill. So without further ado, let's take a look at the units. We have Raviesse, which is our MR Lightning Tank, and we have the infamous Oldoa, who is just such a ridiculous character, but pretty entertaining in the story. So the question that we're going to ask today is, should you pull Raviesse or Oldoa? So first up, we're going to take a look at Raviesse, who is an MR rarity unit. She has the lightning element, and she has 3 move and 1 jump. Her main job is Paladin, and that is a clear sign that she will be a tank. But she also has the Thief sub-job, which is great because that's going to give you some agility and some movement, as well as some good support skills. And then Samurai, again, great support skills, some good damaging skills, some evasion stuff. There's definitely a very interesting unit that we have on the go here, and we all know why she has sub-job Samurai from the last event, if you've played that. So we can take a look at her stats, and we'll just kind of talk about a little bit. These are MR stats. There's nothing here that's really jumping out to me besides the crit rate, which not everybody gets. That's fine, although she's not meant to be a massive damage dealer, and her luck is fine, but it's not super high either. So the only other thing I would point out is that her agility is a little bit higher than some of the other tanks that you might see, like Mont or Engelbert, and we'll compare them in a little bit. But she only gets 6 defense compared to other tanks that get a bunch of defense from their master ability or just from their board in general, and then no spirit as well. So when we take a look at her resistances next, we're going to find that she doesn't have a lot of magic resistance, so she is definitely meant to be a physical tank. Now, she also gets HP increased by 15% as a node on her ability board, which is certainly good for her because her HP is pretty low. It's relatively low. It's low for a tank, but it's not low for a unit. Just something to keep in mind. So we're going to take a look at all of her skills, her whole kit, and then we'll kind of determine where she fits in your lineup. So being a lightning unit, she's going to be strong against water, which isn't particularly relevant right now. There aren't a ton of water units, but this could be important later on. We actually are going to get multiple water units in the future that are URs, and maybe this will be relevant then. It does mean that she is weak to earth, and there's some earth units swinging around. It means that Mont is going to be strong against her, but I don't think that's going to be a huge deal at all. But her resistances they're fairly nice. So 15% slash, 5% pierce, 15% strike, and then 5% for the projectile, and then she's just weak to the magic with minus 20%. And that's kind of fairly standard for a tank, but the 15 to the strike and to the slash, those are nice numbers to hit, so that's definitely good. And she actually has some resistance to blind and to charm, which is kind of interesting. Although she's a little bit weak to confusion, which would be really funny if your opponent has the Gefgarian's TMR and can actually confuse her. So her TMR is going to be a sword with decent attack. Like it's an okay attack, but what's interesting is it has 10 evade, and then it's going to have the effect of increasing your acquired JP, which is totally random. This is not by any means a super strong TMR, but it is like nice to have evade on a weapon sometimes, but I don't think you're not going to chase Raviesse for her TMR. Her master ability is where she becomes very, very interesting as a tank. So she gets evasion rate 10, and then she gets decreased AP consumption 20. And I believe that's 20%. And that is a big deal because all paladins have their taunting blade, which is just so expensive, and if you're able to get it off or not is really determines on whether you can hold hates, and if you can do it reliably like you could with Taunting Spell on a spell blade, then you're able to actually mess around more with your vision cards and use the Vow of Love less. So if this decreases her taunting blade, then that is a really, really solid skill all on its own right there, and that's going to make her worth looking at. The evasion is something that we're going to come back to in just a little bit. Moving along, we're going to take a look at her loadout, and we'll start with her support abilities. So with the paladin abilities, you're just going to get your increased defense and HP, which is obviously a really big deal if you're a tank. So really what it comes down to is going to be these alternate abilities you're going to get from your sub jobs, and the two thief ones are really interesting to me. So the first one is your increased move and your agility. That's just so nice to have a tank with agility. You want your tank to, first of all, you want your tank to have all self buffs and go straight forward, be the first person that your opponent can target, and get hate as soon as possible. So this is going to help your tank be more mobile. It's going to help her be faster. So this is a really good skill. This is Shadow Runner, I believe the English is. The Samurai ability, now this is something where we're going to loop around back to that. So the increased attack, the decreased defense, increased evasion rate, that would sound like a really bad idea for a tank, but you might be surprised with Raviesse. We're going to see what we can do in terms of evasion. Now the final ability here, the increased acquired AP, I haven't done the math here, but if you combine that with her ability, so with her master ability, we're looking at maybe like a 70, one's a decrease the cost for AP, and then the other one is increased acquired AP. We could really look at getting Taunting Blade up with one Sentinel. So if Sentinel gives you 20 TP, but this maxed acquired AP gives you 30 then, and you can have a little bit of starting AP from your Esper, there's actually a good chance that you could turn to Taunting Blade with Raviesse, which is, again, a really solid thing to have as a tank. So there's definitely going to be some messing around here to see if you can get her to work that way as a tank. Now looking at the counter skills, you're going to have all your classic skills for these jobs. I think obviously the most appealing one is the Paladin one that just reduces your damage taken. That's always a really big deal, especially on a unit with lower HP. But the evasion one is very interesting as well, and when you think about counter abilities on a tank, you have to also think about that the tank is the unit that's getting attacked the most, so they might have a chance of proccing their counter ability more often, in which case I think that if you're going evasion with her, then the Samurai one could be kind of interesting, especially if you have maxed and you get 10 evasion from there, 10 from your master, and then whatever you're doing with your evasion in your team. This could be pretty interesting. So looking at her main job skills, this is all very, very standard. You've got your Sentinel, you've got your, and I always forget the names when I don't have the English names here, but your resist death ability, you have your Blade Bash, and all of this stuff. There is an ability there that has, it's kind of an AoE ability around the tank for 40 AP, and that is really interesting. I don't think I've seen that one before. It looks new to me, but that's very good, because when you have people surrounding your tank, which they will do when they're trying to kill your tank, you have a really good opportunity to AoE people. So that's something to keep an eye on. It is very expensive though, although we've talked about how with her reduced AP and increased AP, that this might actually be something that Raviesse could do, is cast these skills way more easily if she's able to survive long enough to do so. Looking at her sub skills, this is where you're going to have to come for your different skills. For your Sentinel, this is going to have to be where you get your Taunting Blade, which is so important as a tank. And it's going to be where your Divine Grace is, which you will turn off or not get, depending on if the ability on and off is here yet. Now looking at Thief, it's again your classic Thief skills, but she does have some good ones. She has a Snipe Dagger, it's always fine. She has Steal Time, she has Steel Heart, she's got steel, she's got steel vision, which actually steel vision's very interesting with evasion, although I don't know that she'll use that in auto battle. And then she gets the whatever the evasion up skill that thieves get, which is very interesting to me. It's a good skill. It's only on yourself, but it has a very high evasion rate increase. Now, if you can get her to use this in the evasion build, this would be actually very interesting for sure. Looking over at Samurai now, again, you're going to get all your classic Samurai skills. You can increase your bravery, you've got Hien, you've got your self buff, you've got your shared evasion rate buff, which is very good in an evasion party, and then you've also got your Night Veil, which is your AoE, again, good when people surround a tank. And then finally, you've got, I can't remember what this ability is called, but it's got a really good damage down there, the 200%. It's piercing, it gives you some killers, which can be relevant in some PvE content, and it is quite expensive, but again, it's kind of like a AoE, so not bad skills to have if you can get her damage up, or if she can just do some damage to help out. I always try to frame a lot of these unit reviews in terms of PvP, because that's really where you're getting the most out of your units, whereas they're more interchangeable in PvE for a lot of things. So this is all very interesting in terms of how we can build her. Okay, so we've got some decisions to make here. We've got a tank that has an ability to taunt very easily, and we've also got a tank that has multiple ways to go evade, and they're clearly pointing us in that direction with her master ability. If you put her in a full evade party with all your evasion cards, your luck up, your Shiva, what have you, plus her passive and whatever sort of abilities she's using here, even her increased evasion rate with the samurai ability, there's some real potential to have an awesome evade team, and nice to have that focal point of the evade team that can maybe take more than one hit if they do get hit. But the downside to doing any sort of evade, going hard into evade with these evasion skills, is that you're going to lose access to Taunting Blade, and I think you also have to set up your passives a certain way as well. So I don't think I know enough about evade teams, not having played one myself, to recommend that. I am also wondering if you really do want to go thief or not, because if you go with your thief skills here, you're going to have you're not going to have any team buffs, although again we can turn stuff on and off, but you still get some evasion, you get some very strong evasion, and this would allow her to go forward again with Vow of Love and to be targeted right away and allow your evade team to get up on their own without being targeted, although again they're supposed to be dodging. So I'm really interested to see how she ends up being built, because this her paladin skills are going to be so useful, and I wonder if even with her paladin skills, without having that evade buff to cast on herself, if the rest of the team has evade stuff, if she has evade equipment, if you have your evade vision cards, etc., will that still be enough with her as a paladin? Even if she is not the most evadey person on the team, but the rest of the team is, even if you just affect your opponent's hit rate, there's going to be matches where maybe she gets hit, maybe she doesn't, maybe she gets hit once and misses once, and that's going to make a difference. That's going to possibly make up for the lower amount of HP, and I think this makes for such an interesting type of character, not a traditional tank by any means. So I'm really excited to see how she works out. So we're going to compare her to a couple other tanks here, just to see how she stacks up. So first we'll compare her to Mont. They're both MR tanks, and Mont has kind of been our staple MR tank, or our main tank if you don't have Engelbert. He's been around, everyone has easy access to maxing him, so most people have been able to use him. They're very comparable. Mont has a little bit more HP, Raviesse has crit rate. They're a little different in their dexterity and luck, but again, not that much different. The big difference here is that Raviesse has more agility than Mont, but then Mont has way more defense than Raviesse does. So that's your main difference here, is that Mont looks to be more tanky, but then you can look at their resistances, and Raviesse actually has better resistances for the most part across the board from Mont, aside from striking, which is fine because there's just not that much striking out there. So that's looking very good for her camp, that she can kind of use her resistances rather than defense. And then we're also going to compare her to Engelbert, because he's kind of our prime tank. He's the UR tank, and you're going to see obviously that URs just get better stats. He's got way more HP, he's got more strength, he's got more crit rate even. His dexterity is worse, but his luck is insane. If you didn't know, Engel's actually secretly an evade tank as well, because he's got huge luck. His agility is poor, his defense is ridiculous, and his resistances are ridiculous. So I mean, you're always going to have this more solid tank with the UR, but I think Raviesse is going to give you access to different types of tanking, and maybe even more, even with a lower strength, she still might be more offensive because of her skills and because of her reduced TP or AP cost. I think that might allow her to actually be more aggressive, because she can use more abilities and maybe even just use taunting spell more, which again is just such a big deal. If she can use taunting spell lots, then maybe you just slap the Leonis Castle vision card on her for the 15 spirit, 15 defense, and you call it a day, and there's your tank. And if you build her evasion, then you don't have to worry about stacking her defense and spirit as much, because you're just hoping that she's dodging at least a couple of attacks. So next up we have Oldoa, and it's kind of interesting to see her right before FFT2. It's almost a kindness on the developers to give us less of a chase unit right before a big patch coming out, and I actually wonder if we're going to get some ridiculous step up banner or something really cool this week to make us want to spend our Visior, because then we'll have to buy more when the FFT2 releases. So we'll have to just see about that, but for now I'm going to tell you all about Oldoa. So she is a UR wind character, 3 move, 1 jump. Her main job is soldier, so we've got another UR soldier after Stern, and she also has subjob Viking, which is an amazing subjob. It's got some really good passives, it's got a good counter, it's got good skills, and then subjob assassin, which again, this is maybe our first subjob assassin, I think it is. Again, some very, very powerful skills, and they're all going to be slashing. So taking a look at her stats, she's going to be very, very strong. You can see she's got a ton of strength. Her HP isn't that high, and again, she's a soldier, so she's going to have that decreased resistance, increased attack passive. So you do have to worry about her being one shot or not, but she gets a good crit rate. She gets fine dexterity, high luck, high agility, well, relatively high, and then she doesn't get any added defense or spirit. She is going to get a node on her ability board for increased AP, 20%, which is very nice indeed. So taking a look at her resistances, she's going to be strong against earth, which is fine, and then weak against ice. And being weak against ice is a pain because there's so many ice units, and we're about to see Agrius drop, and then more ice units in the future. So it's not the best resistance to have, but that's the fun part of this game, is half of the battles you're doing, or all of the battles that you're doing, you're targeting somebody, and then sure, some people can target you and kill battle or whatever, but it's way more fun when you get to target other people. Her resistances they're fine. Having that little bit of slash resist, just not being weak to slash, is a big deal. Pierce it just means that Victorias are going to wreck Oldoas if they can, and then she's fine against strike and against projectile. And it's good that she has that projectile, because as we know with our Viking passives, you can go spec to be anti-projectile, which will be very nice with her. And then she's a little bit weak to magic. Taking a look at her status ailment resistances, the one that stands out is the charm resistance. That's actually pretty cool. Her TMR is an accessory, and we love accessory TMRs. The stats, yeah, they're not great. Accuracy is always nice to have on there. Crit rate might actually be very good for her if you don't have it from anywhere else. And again, accessory, it's good. It's good. You can easily fit an accessory in there. The skill is going to give you auto restore, which is awesome. So this is a really good skill. It's 30 TP, it means it gives you 15 AP, that's good. And then increased defense penetration for 3 turns. This is a really good skill. So this is going to make it totally worth it for her to have it, or for other attackers to have. I'm all aboard on this TMR skill. Her master ability is really awesome, and this is where she becomes super interesting as a character, as characters often do with their master abilities. She's going to get a bunch of resistances here, and this is going to allow her to counteract her -8 resistances across the board she's going to get from her self-sacrifice passive. It's going to allow her to get her strength up super high without sacrificing very much resistance at all. And then if you did want to build her a little more tanky without self-sacrifice, then you're just going to have better resistances across the board. And the increase in acquired AP is also very important, because it's going to allow you to use some of the more expensive skills in her kit, which we'll take a look at next. So looking at support, the biggest ones here are going to be your self-sacrifice. So look at that 60% increase in attack, and then decreasing all your resistances, paired with something like you can do acquired AP, but she already has it. Increase evasion rate. I don't know if you're building evasion. She has high luck. That's definitely an option here to do evasion rate and do an evasion party. But actually just increasing her HP, increasing her attack with the Viking sub passive there, that's awesome. Like those first 2 passives, that's a really good way to go. And then of course you have your option to go spec against missile resist if you're targeting those parties in guild battles. Well, that's all the more power to you to get your missile resist up to I guess, let's see, it's going to go up to that's 15, and then you can get another 15, 30, and that's without any sort of other gear. If you have vision cards, you can really give missile users a pain or something to worry about. Next up is the counter abilities, and we all know that Oldoa is really great at surrendering and then bragging, so maybe there'll be some of that in there worked into the flavor. Nope, it's going to be the regular abilities for her jobs. So Soldier, you're going to get your basic counter, but it's going to be a nice strong counter. For your Viking, you have a chance to increase your HP, and that's really nice for her if she survives damage. If you have a build of Oldoa that actually survives a few hits, then you'll want to pick that one. And then you've got your evasion build, which has a chance to increase your evasion rate and then increase your CT so that you can actually go sooner, and that one is very interesting if you were doing an evade build. So definitely different directions to go here depending on what you're doing. If the surviving the damage and healing a little bit isn't relevant, then you'll just want to go with the counter ability, because she's going to be built so strong that her swinging back might be a really big deal. Okay, so soldier abilities, these are all very, very typical. You have your hazard form to increase your attack. You've got your osmos ability thing. You've got your drain force, your hazard break, this one is the paralyzed, or no, this one is the hazard break. And then to get your hard slash, so to get your hard slash and your paralyzing edge, your hazard spin, all of that, that's going to be on the sub job. Those abilities are all good. It's nice to have those lower AP abilities, but we're going to get so many great abilities from all of our subs. There's actually going to be a lot of ways to build here, and I believe all the abilities are slashing, so you can't really go wrong with that. If you're powering up her slashing, you're powering up all of her sub jobs. So I think that this is going to be your typical damage build with her soldier skills. So we can also take a look at her Viking skills. We're going to get an increased defense thing here with attack up. That's really solid for her, especially helps her survive some damage. A piercing attack, increased bravery to self. And what's nice about these skills is that they all target self. You want her to go forward and wreak some havoc. This is going to allow her to do that without having to turn anything off. You're going to get launch, and you're going to get this big AoE. So if we compare this to the soldier skills, I think you're going to be able to do more damage with the soldier skills, but you're going to get more utility with these skills, and I think that this is going to be your more bruiser like Oldoa is going to have the Viking sub. And then we have Assassin, and Assassin is going to have Steel. You're going to have a couple of range abilities, and then the big one is the decreasing defense attack here. These abilities, except for the final one, are not going to be as strong as your soldier abilities. They're also going to need you to get in a lot closer, but you're going to be able to chew through some tanks, which will certainly be very nice. And the absorb AP is also really cool. I like that. I like that ability a lot. That's actually cool to use on an raid boss or something if you can take away their AP. So otherwise, I think that this one is going to be really hard to use because her move is so low that, I mean, she's really going to need to get up there to use these abilities, whereas with her soldier abilities and with her Viking abilities, she's going to have a little bit more range, and her agility is not terrible. Like, it's not bad at all. But that move is really going to be the big thing with getting her into the action, and something that you'll have to play around if you were actually building with her. Okay, so she also has a limit burst, which will hit for 200%. It's 43 AP, but again, we're going to be able to acquire AP well with her, and it also decreases defense by 35% for 3 turns. So that's a really solid limit burst. I don't know how often she'll be able to use it. It just depends on how much AP she can generate early. But I haven't seen it, and I really want to see it because I'm hoping it's comical, because she's just a really funny character. Okay, so we'll compare her to some similar units and kind of go from there and on how we judge her. So the obvious comparison is Stern. They're both job soldiers, both URs. Oldoa's going to get a little bit of an HP boost on Stern. You're going to see a little bit less strength, but you get the crit rate. You're going to lose some dexterity, but gain some luck. Agility is similar. They both don't have defense. So really here you get a very slight trade-off in HP for power. And the other thing to consider, though, is that Stern is going to get the ninja passive, the mobility, and all that kind of stuff. So that makes him a lot easier to move around the battlefield than Oldoa is. So that's just something to consider. Yerma is another comparison. It's a UR Wind character that's a Viking, and Yerma is going to be just a little bit more of a bruiser than Oldoa is, more HP, less strength, and then way less luck, but more dexterity, less agility. Just a different skill set. Definitely going to be more of a bruiser type character. Oldoa is going to be a little bit stronger than Yerma is. So all around, she looks well statted. She looks like she's a solid character. Her biggest hang up is her move, but she's got a really good skill set, and she's got just such an interesting master ability. She really should be able to survive much easier than Stern does, and that's what is super intriguing about her. So I'm very excited to see the people that do pull for her, how they build her and how it is to play against her. So the question is now, should you pull? And I'm gonna have a little different answer. Like the overall answer is gonna be no. Yeah, you shouldn't pull. But if you do some fun pulls and you are able to get these units, I think that you have some decent units on your hands. I think that a lot of us should be pulling on FFT2 because we might have to finish a Ramza or an Orlando. We might have to finish a Scion Vision card, or we might be going for the new stuff that's coming out. There's lots of reasons to pull then, and there's lots of reasons to pull after, because we're going to be getting some really solid units after FFT2. So unless you don't have another tank option and you're really wanting to get a new tank, unless you are desperate for this bruiser type character, you're better off saving. Even if you're not going for FFT2, you're better off just saving for after that, because there's just so many good units coming up. So my final verdict is going to be maybe for Raviesse. I think that if you have an evasion team, she might be super appealing to you. If you do want to move into a different type of tank from Mont and you don't have other tanks, then she could be very fun to build as well. So I'm just going to leave her as a maybe. I don't think overall you should pull in the banner. I think you should consider building her if you're able to pull her. For Oldoa, I'm so sorry. We're gonna give you a big X, and that's just to signify that we shouldn't be pulling on this banner, most likely. And again, there could be a circumstance. Let's say that you've got some good magic users, you've got Kilfe, you've got Medina, you've got your tanks sorted out, maybe you have some projectile damage dealers, and you just don't have, for whatever reason in this account, maybe you started later, you don't have that big bruiser damage dealer. Well, this might be a good time to get it, and that would be the circumstance where you would pull for her. But otherwise, I just think that she's probably a skippable unit, and because she's not a limited unit, you will get a chance to build her at some point if you're just able to pull her. I don't think she's someone that you need to rush to build now, although to everybody that does pull for her, to everybody that gets her, I think you're going to enjoy her because she looks like a really fun unit, and you get to be super unique. You get to be that person with the unit that not many other people have, and that is on its own such a nice feeling sometimes in a gacha game where every single matchup is like Engelbert, Orlando, and Ayaka, Engelbert, Lucia, and Orlando, etc. So it is nice when you get to use different units than what you're seeing with your opponents. Okay, so that's going to be it. That's going to be the video, and I hope that it was useful to you. As always, please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, if I got something wrong, if you have different theories for how to use these units, or if you think that this is a banner that you are going to pull on, and tell me why. I want to know. I want to know why. And then otherwise, we're going to be back soon with more videos. I'm going to be doing some, I'll do a should you pull for FFT2 next week, and then I'm also doing some arena matches with Mashery that I'll be posting at some point, and I've got lots of video scripts in the works, and then it's just finding the time to film them and put them together for you all. But with that said, we're gonna take off, so thank you very much for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can show your support with a like and subscribe, and by checking out my Patreon at patreon.com/MassidiaGaming. Until next time, keep it real, Massidians.